For sure. Well,
Yeah.
it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to delving into your life of being the prolific investor and everything that's made you who you are. But to begin that journey, I want to start with the pandemic, surviving it. How did you get through that COVID time period, and how did it change the way that you do things?
Well, I think I can say that weren't very, even though we were living in Seattle at the time, we were both working at home, so we were already kind of in that mode, and we really tried to not let it affect us that much. And Washington State and Seattle was a lockdown,
Yeah.
that was a lockdown culture, and so we were already working at home, but we tried to keep things as normal as possible. We used to walk down the street to a coffee shop that was inside a little grocery store. Well, they got rid of the 2 or 4 tables that were in there, so that was that. So instead, we would get in our car every morning and we drive 20 or 30 minutes away to a drive-through coffee shop that had some outdoor picnic tables, and that would give us a commute time. We had some podcasts to listen to. Depending on the weather, we could sit outside. So we would do that in the mornings, and sometimes we'd hop on the motorcycle and drive 40 miles to some takeout place where we could grab lunch and sit on the curb or in a lawn chair or something. And then I had a big 3-car wide extra tall shop, and I invited a couple of friends over, and we had a big 8-foot table. I said, "You sit there, we'll sit here. Here's the ruler, everybody can see." And it was all individually packed and wrapped ham food, and I had a big vacant field. And I said, "Hey, tailgate party in my field. Bring your car, your truck, and here's the circle." So we tried to stay connected to people, and it I mean, I hear about the horrors of the time, and I'm sure it was, but it wasn't that bad for us. And I
Yeah.
also think when you spend that much time with a partner, that's a real, and you come through the end of it and you still like each other. I'm like, well, I think we're really meant for each
That's
other.
it. You're
We're
compatible.
we're together 24/7, and we still want to hang out.
Yeah.
After this is all over. So it wasn't that bad for us. So.
Yeah. So let's get to the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of grade schoolers, third graders. One of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer him?
Well, for a third grader, I'm going to say I help people get rich.
Okay.
I think that's about as like as much as I can remember my third grade mentality, and I think
Yeah.
that's about it. And they're going to go, ooh, they
Uh-huh.
probably know what rich means, right?
Yeah.
So
They're probably going to be like, "Give me a lottery ticket. Let's go."
yeah, right. That's not the
So,
best not the best plan, by the way.
no, no, it's not. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
Well, I didn't really have a dream in the third grade, but I can tell you very vividly that uh, I was reading a book in the third grade, and it had a little thing that said, "Hey, if you show the code, you got to decode this by looking at it in a mirror." And the only mirror I could find or something similar was the window, and it had some blinds, and so I was trying to open up the blinds and the teacher took me aside and sent me to the principal's office. And she called up my parents that day. I remember the phone rang at 6 o'clock. She said she was going to call, and she said, "He will never graduate from high school."
Wow.
Anyway, so I didn't really have many big dreams in
Yeah.
third grade, but some people thought I was going nowhere.
Right,
And I would
right.
love to find her today, and uh,
Yeah.
I don't know what I would say, but I could
Yeah.
probably come up with a few choice things. How,
Absolutely.
how dare you,
Yeah.
tell a child and their parents based on what I was reading and curious and trying to solve a puzzle in a book? So
Yeah.
crazy.
That's ridiculous. I never understand why any educator would stunt a child's fulcrum and who they are. It's just always been weird to me, you
Right,
know.
right. Yeah.
But that can become the anti-hero that can make somebody really go for it, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Hey, everybody's motivated in different ways,
Uh-huh.
the carrot and the stick and whatever.
That's it. So let me ask you this. Take me back to your childhood, and what were the seeds that were planted into you to have such a business acumen to help people find that money and that success?
That didn't come in my childhood at all. I was if you've ever read Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant with the employees and the investors and the small business and the big business, and I was surrounded by E's, and employees, and that's all I knew. So I didn't have the stuff that I do now came way later in life. But the thing that I was very interested in was working with my hands, anything with a motor. I like, cars, motorcycles, and airplanes, and I really like planes. And I don't even know where the airplanes came in, but I ended up going to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I was in the aviation field for a long time before I kind of branched off into what I do now.
So talk to me a little bit about heroes. Who's been an inspiration or a hero for you in your life?
Yeah, I can't. I would have to say that I didn't have a lot of uh, people that I personally knew. I was in my 20s and still am kind of a self-improvement junkie. And the people who really instilled in me, I would say, a baseline of kind of the way to think was primarily Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. And
Okay.
Jim Rohn said, you've got a philosophy. You might not even know it, and know where it came from. That's the set of the sail. If you have a problem, we need to change your philosophy. And so kind of that rugged American individualism. I feel like I got from him. There were two people growing up that were, and I guess now that I think about it, when you're saying it, they were other people focused, and they stood out. And that was my Uncle Bill and my German granny, Emmy, and she just loved me. She just thought everything I did was awesome, and she told me all the time. And Bill was always wanted to know about me, what I was doing, and so I have remembered that. And I can't say that I've achieved that, but I like to try and be, ask people about themselves, be other people focused.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway.
So let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now, whether it's business or otherwise, someone you really admire and spend a little time with them, who would that be?
I think I'd want to meet somebody, really successful and maybe even controversial. Somebody like Elon Musk, for example. I
Yeah.
think I've seen interviews with him. I think I don't know how good could he be a guy you could sit around and have a beer with, and but he's obviously a guy who's got some big ideas and who's kind of shaking up the world. Love him or hate him, he's certainly making a difference.
Yeah. So you've come a long way in your life. You've been successful. There's a lot going on. What is it that gets you up every day, that makes and motivates you to be who you are? And not only to help your clients, but to also evolve as a human yourself.
It's I have a couple words for it. It's a new challenge or a project. And so when I don't have this thing out here in the future that I'm kind of working toward, I mean, it could be learning a language, it could be playing the piano, it could be writing a book, or getting on stage in front of a group of people. If I'm not pursuing something like that, I tend to slip into a little bit of, I would say, depression would be a strong word, but I would say mild kind of depression, kind of lethargy. I think that's the right word. And sometimes I don't even realize. I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm like, you know what? I'm too comfortable,
Yeah.
right? I need to be
Yeah.
stretched a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, and those interests come and go all the time. So that's it's got there's always, and I heard a guy on a podcast. I think he's some kind of a psychologist, something, and he called it. Oh, now if I could. Oh shoot. Um, Now I can't think of the word.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh no, he called it the generative drive,
Okay. I
and there
gotcha.
and I don't think this is a widely held thing. It's kind of his, and he was like, there's four or five of these different drives, and the generative drive is kind of the desire to create something or build something. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you had a dream tonight, ran into that young version of you that was told you weren't going to graduate and you weren't going to do this, you weren't going to do that. If you could tell that young version of you one thing based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained along the way, what advice would you impart on that young version?
Hmm. I think I would say something like, don't be afraid,
Yeah.
take risks, take chances. Don't don't spend less time thinking what other people think about you and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's a real limiting factor. And I always think, if I could think about you or me or anybody, if you could go back into your 18-year-old body with your whatever age brain, you'd be running shit, right? You'd be
Yeah,
king of the world, man.
100%. 100%. So what are you the proudest of everything you've accomplished and evolved into? What are you ultimately the proudest of?
I'm proud that I have two children, 31 and 33, who still like to hang out with me.
There you
We
go.
take vacations together. We have a great time. And I'm like, man, if you could, at the end of the day, that's it,
That is it. So what is the business? What is the business out there that you admire? We kind of hold business success like sports. There's this kind of rise up. Is there a business model that exists out there that you admire that you've always kind of been into?
I guess I wouldn't say that uh, I like sports, but I'm not crazy about it, and when somebody calls me and says, "Hey, the team from my one of my hometowns or adopted hometowns," I'll get on and watch, and I'll watch the Super Bowl and the World Series, a little bit of the Olympics. Oh, I really watched the World Cup, but I'm not watching. I don't have Sunday ticket. But the thing that I admire about professional sports team is that is true capitalism.
Yeah.
They put the best people on the field. It doesn't matter what color they are, where they came from, what they believe in. And that's the business model that should be followed. We're putting the best people on the field all the time. We don't care about the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty diverse group of people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
maybe not so much in hockey, but whatever.
Yeah. 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 But everything else is. So at the end of the day, Chris, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients,
Yeah.
colleagues, but you run the show. What's your
Yeah.
perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a lifelong learner and that takes pleasure in the little successes along the way. Uh, learning about I've got a friend who's into AI, and we had a Zoom call, and I said, "Hey, I got to figure out how to do this." He said, AI can help you do that. Here's the 4 platforms and I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned how to do this new thing that's gonna, make me a little bit more productive. And I think I'm good at a lot of things. I don't think I'm particularly great at much of anything. So
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If we get off the call here and a time machine pulls up to your house, you can go anywhere in the history of time and see one event. Where are you going?
I'm gonna go back to I have two of them, but I'll give you one. I'm gonna go back to the time after the Civil War
Okay.
and see that that period. I'm reading a book by Booker T. Washington, who grew up in slavery and lived through that. And he has a book called Up from Slavery that was written in 19 or published in 1901. And it's hard to put down. It's very, very fascinating to hear his story. So
Yeah, that'd be great. So if anyone wants to hire you, reach out, learn more about you, any of the good business, where can they go?
go to my website, theprolificinvestor.net, and every way to contact me, phone number, email, social media, LinkedIn, it's all there.
Right on. Chris, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story. Keep doing the great work, man.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Take care.